This is Athenar from Midnight, and this is Heavy New York.
Heavy New York!
What is up, everybody? It's Alex from Heavy New York. This is the first interview of 2020, and we are starting things off on a great note. We are here with Athenar of the Almighty Midnight. Thank you so much for your time, man.
Hanging out in Brooklyn, as you can tell, by the window. And it's very nice, you know, the moon's out. We're thinking about taking a stroll, and but first we're gonna talk about stuff.
And totally destroy your bed right here.
That's not a bed. This is an actual window, and that's the moon. This is water that we're standing on right now.
Okay, like Jesus, we're standing in the water.
This is a cloud.
Yep.
This is a cloud of water. This is nimbus clouds.
Awesome. So, Rebirth by Blasphemy, newest record coming out January 24th. You have these 3 singles out that you just released. Could these singles that you have, Rising Scum, fucking Speed and Darkness, and the title track, can this serve as maybe like a clear preview or representation of what the entire album's going to sound like, or is there a little more experimentation and some diversity?
Experimentation and diversity with the band Midnight. Well, there's nothing too much. I mean, I think if it's those first 2 tunes were kind of like non-ragers, if you will. You know, you got a galloper, you got a pounder, and then now fucking Speed and Darkness. It's, you know, more of the speed. So I think just with those 3, you get a good sampler plate of what's to come.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think people will like it, and if they don't like it, then they can listen to the Backstreet Boys.
There you go. One thing I was curious about is with the making of Rebirth by Blasphemy, was there kind of like a preconceived idea of what you wanted this record to sound like, or was there kind of like some improvising involved and like things kind of happened like organically?
There's always improvising that happens, that's for sure. It's just kind of, yeah. Of course, I kind of have the songs mapped out, and then, if it, you know, it's just me going in there, of course. So shit'll happen. You know, it's I just kind of take it as it goes. So it's hard for me to explain to somebody else, this is what I want, this is what I envision, because it's gonna come out shittily anyway. It's not like the engineer or whatever can only polish a turd so much. So my playing's going to come out rough. It's going to come out raw. So no matter how good we want to call it the production is, or the engineering, it's still going to come out rough and raw. So yeah.
You kind of led me into that because I noticed that Midnight's music is very raw and it has kind of like a atmospheric charm to it. So when you work with somebody like mixing it and like producing it, are you ever worried that there has to be like a threshold in how much you could touch something before like it loses like that rawness, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, like I said, yeah, I mean, yeah, there are some things like, I mean, with today's technology, I guess it could be easy to like, okay, let's chop this, chop that, and move this and move that, but there's really none of that going on in this, you know, in any of those records. You know, it's like what it play is what comes out. So yeah, I don't want to like chop off the feedback or move, you know, because the snare hit was a little off and move it over. That's horse shit. So it is how it is.
Mm-hmm. I think it's fair to say too, like your music captures a moment as well, right? You like don't want to work on something too much because it could kind of like lose the edge from when you first came up with the idea, right?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think that's the element of rock music in general. What, you know, the since the beginning of it, it's like it's supposed to capture some spontaneity and not just, you know, it's not supposed to be kind of sterile and just hammer out something and work on it. You know, of course you want it to sound how you envision it to sound, but you can only do that so much before it's just gonna sound lame, boring, and like every other stamp and press metal record. Just here's a record. Here's another new record. You know,
don't make a record like license plates. You know?
Yeah, right. So
yeah.
You know,
Well, the one thing I was really curious about is because, like, I feel like being that you mentioned your music captures a moment and you're really focused on the sound and all that, do you have to put yourself in a certain element in order to get inspired to write, or does inspiration to write music just come out of nowhere sometimes?
It can come out of nowhere sometimes. And most of the times, yeah, I guess it does. But it's funny you mentioned that too, because I was recently kind of wanted to redo my basement, you know, like make it kind of more soundproof, or to make it kind of like more studio-ish, if you will, I guess, and less basement-ish. And then so, you know, some guy came down and he's talking about plans. Yeah, we can put a wall here, this and that. And after he left, I'm like, yeah, fuck that. You know, that sounds so lame. You know, I like coming down to the basement, like I said, being in an environment of basement, you know, concrete walls, concrete floor, just seeing shit, you know, just being in a basement environment, you know, because that's where I've just always felt comfortable. Rather than coming down to like, oh yeah, we could put carpet on the floor, have a nice wall there, and you know, we'll put heating ducts here. It's gonna. And I was like, after he said all that, then it just finally clicked with me. I'm like, nah, fuck that. Yeah, I don't care if the neighbors hear it anyway. Screw them. Mm-hmm. So, fuck sound reinforcement. I'm just gonna still keep it in the basement. You know, so
piss off the neighbors.
Yeah, you know, they don't like me as it is. You know, but so yeah. But it's yeah, there's a little bit, you know, like the element of just Cleveland in general, but even more, like you're saying, a little more even personal environment, you know, your living space. So it's I think it's better just to keep it how you want it, you know.
Do you, because as somebody who has seen you live, you know, back, you know, when you were on the Creator Obituary tour back in 2017, and then, you know, just recently on the Obituary tour with Devil Master and Abbott, and now also you just recently were here with Electric Wizard. So like, I'd imagine when you are playing live, there has to be, is there maybe like a similar energy that you channel into your live presence as when you're in songwriting mode, or is like the two arts completely different?
That's kind of a decent question. Yeah, I mean it's similar, because I mean it's the music that's coming out, and but maybe live it's even more so, because the guys that are playing live, I mean they're fantastic musicians, so I'm doing my best just to keep up with them, you know. So we're always trying to like outdo each other. So like if this guy's really going for it, I gotta really go for it, and he's really going for it, you know, and vice versa. So it's almost kind of like we each don't want to, you know, trying to outdo each other, don't want to let each other down, you know, like. So it's that's why I think the intensity holds up live, you know. Mm-hmm. So I think that's more of a reason. Yeah.
Now, obviously, you know, you really focus on your stage presence and the way that you present yourself on stage. Like, when you know, with this sort of aesthetic that you present yourself on stage, are you portraying a character completely outside of yourself, or is this an extension of who you are personally?
Well, I try and keep it. I'm sure it's a person that's in me, unfortunately, you know, and because I don't have that good of an imagination to make up a person like that. So it is who it is, but I think it's pretty good at keeping it that at bay when in that situation, you know. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you know, if I was a complete asshole just walking around the streets, you know, I would be in jail. Mm-hmm. So to play gigs, you know, you can be an asshole for 45 minutes and get away with it. You know, it's legal. Mm-hmm. So.
Do you kind of go into that same mode when you're in this? Kind of like a similar question to what I asked before, but do you kind of go into that same mode when writing the album as well, or?
I guess when writing, I guess there's a bit of that. There's a bit of that, but it's not. Yeah, maybe that's something to think about there, ponder about that. But there's definitely a bit, like I said, the person's in there, but it's just not. Maybe the reins are on there. Maybe I should let the reins out again. Maybe I should go to jail. You know, who knows? Yeah,
that'll be some inspiration. You should play a gig in jail. You should play a gig in jail, like Incarceration Festival or something like that.
No, jail's nothing to fool around with, boy. No, I don't want to go there.
Okay, fair enough. And I have two more questions for you, but
Yeah.
you guys originated in Cleveland, Ohio? Or?
Yep.
So, I was just actually in Ohio for the first time in 2019, and, being the journalist, I'm always asking, like, the locals, how's the scene here? And I've heard great things. I've interviewed Bubbleflex, who's from Ohio. I interviewed, Devil Wears Prada, obviously different styles and everything, but with the Ringworm coming from there, 9 Inch Nails, and Filters so much. Was there kind of like a scene in Cleveland that Midnight was always associated with, or was the goal for Midnight to kind of go outside?
Well, that was, I mean, you say the word goal. There was never really a goal. It was just to do exactly what I wanted. And but the thing about Cleveland in general, I think, is I've lived there my whole life. It's that there is no scene, which makes that's what kind of makes it a scene. Is because there's no real like you have to do this to be in this little clique. You have to do this to be in this little clique. It's all just at least even since I started going to gigs there in the '80s, it was. Even in the days of when in New York, there was always like the strict metal and hardcore, but they kind of course
and then
got
with
together.
LA thrash and glam kind of.
I mean, with Cleveland, it was you were allowed to like Slayer and Ted Nugent, and just whatever, there was never like there was never any like playing dress up. You didn't have to have a mohawk, or it was just like dudes getting off work, going to a fucking show.
And that's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I think is Cleveland, and it's the Midwest.
Yeah.
So,
and it's fun. I think that speaks high to like the bands that have come out of there with you guys, and then a band like Ringworm, but you also have the Devil Wears Prada coming out of there, and then you also have 9 Inch Nails. Like,
I've heard of the name Devil Wears Prada, but I'm an ignorant bastard. So where are they from? They're from Cleveland.
Yeah,
right?
I think they originated from from Columbus, but I could be wrong.
Oh, okay, Columbus.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm talking about the whole state,
Right,
but
yeah.
like like if you look at like Seattle, it's known for grunge.
Yeah.
LA's known for glam. New York's known for hardcore. I feel like there's a lot of great bands from there, but it just seems like there's not a single style that dictates it.
Yeah, Cleveland. I mean, since the '70s, it's just always even the punk bands that were there in the '70s, like Pagans, Electric Eels, Dead Boys. They were just trash. It wasn't like like I said, they had to have a certain look or whatever. It was just the Dead Boys had guitar solos. That's not punk to have guitar solos. But they did because they were fans of rock music and shit. And it didn't have to fit a set formula.
Yeah.
And then the '80s was like bands like Destructor and Black Death. Black Death, one of the first all black heavy metal bands coming from Cleveland. So, and they were just same thing. They were from just just a part of Cleveland that you normally wouldn't go to, and just for them just to come out of there for no reason, just to play heavy metal, it's great. It could only happen in Cleveland.
There you go. And the final question I wanted to ask you is always the most difficult question for every artist to answer. So I love asking this: how do you know when a song is done?
You sound like Lars Ulrich in Some Kind of Monster. He's looking at art like, when is it done? Like, when is this done? I don't know.
Savage.
But it's done when the third verse is done on the pen. Then I can put it down. That's when it's done. But no, I think as far as the stuff that I like to make up, it's simple. So. I think it's easy to tell when it's done. There's nothing. The thing about it is with the covers, with anything, it's like the less you can do, I think, is the better. So if you can make a song with the least amount of whatever it is, that's when I think it's done. So why add more shit? Like if you can make just a great tasting hamburger with just a bun and meat, whatever. I mean, what do you have to add this ingredient, that ingredient to titillate your taste buds? And when
Yeah.
if you can titillate your taste buds just with a bun and meat, then think you got something.
That's how I like my hamburgers. That really makes me feel good. Like, you have no idea. I see people put, like, ketchup, mustard, like 40 different types of sauces on it. Like, the burger's, like, that big. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? So.
Yeah, don't drown your food in ketchup and mayo and goo.
Exactly.
That was a commercial when I was a kid.
So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time today. And thank you for, allowing me to bring your, shoes on the bed.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot we're in water right now.
We're on a cloud. We're drifting on a cloud near the Brooklyn Bridge.
Is there just anything else with Midnight you would like to promote? Rebirth from Blasphemy is coming out January 24th. So is there just anything? I'd imagine we'll be seeing you on the road quite a bit.
Yeah, I would think so. So I'm not here to promote anything. I'm just here to hang out and bullshit. So
there you go.
But I appreciate you coming by the bowels here of is it are we in New York or are we in Milwaukee here with, because it looks like we're in Laverne and Shirley's apartment here on the street level.
That was a great analogy, but we're in Park Slope, Brooklyn.
Okay, all right.
Yep. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Athenar. Everybody, we are here with Midnight Rebirth by Blasphemy out of Metal Blade Records, January 24th. This is Alex from Heavy New York. We'll see you next time.